All right, so let me start off by saying no more functions. So you guys should be happy about that. This unit might get a little bit challenging, but at least it's a nice break from what you've been doing. This first one really isn't that hard. Not a whole lot of math involved. It's a lot of organization and learning how to where things fit. So please take really, really good notes. All right, so this is statistics now that we're going into, and this is target 10A, and this is visually summarizing and representing data. All right, so your objectives for this particular section are to compare the shape, center, and spread of several data sets displayed on the same scale, and to understand the definitions of box and whisker plot, 5-number summary, mean, median, mode, and outlier. All right, so let's start with the vocabulary, and there's quite a bit of it. And I do want you to make sure that you write this stuff down in your notes because it is important to know what I'm talking about. So, a box and whisker plot is a data display that organizes data values into 4 groups. Okay? A 5-number summary is a table that displays data into actually it's 5 categories. Shouldn't be 4, should be 5. Okay? Minimum, lower quartile, which we're going to call Q1, median, upper quartile, which we're going to call Q3, and maximum. All right, a mean, you guys should know this. That's the average of a numerical set of data. Median is the middle number of a numerical set of data when it is written in order. So the key thing to remember there is put your numbers in order from lowest to highest. And mode is the number or numbers that appear most frequently. Now, you will always have a median. You will always have an average. You may not always have a mode. So keep that in mind. And an outlier is a value that is widely separated from the rest of the data in a data set. And it'll be pretty apparent, as you'll see in the example that I give you towards the end of the video. So here's how you make a box and whisker plot. And I'm also going to show you how, excuse me, to make a 5-number summary in addition to that. So let's say we have 7 family members and we want to make a 5-number summary and a box and whisker plot of their heights in inches of these family members. And their heights are 34, 67, 70, 62, 46, 75, and 54. So the first step is to go ahead and order the data. That's always going to be your first step. Then you're going to find the median and the quartiles. So pay attention here because this part, you might have done some of this before, but I can pretty much guarantee that this part you haven't, or you might not remember. So this is the data in order from lowest to highest: 34, 46, 54, 62, 67, 70, and 75. Okay, so here's how you divide it. So you're going to have a lower half, a median, and an upper half. So this is an odd number of terms. So we have 7 terms here. So finding the median for this is really easy. That's always going to be that middle number. Your lower half is going to be everything to the left. Your upper half is going to be everything to the right. Okay? Now, your lower quartile is going to be the middle number of the lower half. Your upper quartile, same thing. Your middle number of the upper half. Those are important to know. Okay, 34, right, where are we? This is your minimum, and this is your maximum. All right, so this is with an odd number. It's actually pretty easy when you have an odd number to do this. If you have an even number, again, I'll get into that in a little bit. All right, so the next step is to create a 5-number summary from this. This is what it's going to look like. Because remember, I had the smallest one labeled as a minimum. Okay, the middle number of that lower half, that's going to be your lower quartile or Q1. Median, again, was when you have them in order, that middle number that fell right into, between all the entire set of data. Okay, your upper quartile or your Q3, it's the middle number of that upper half, okay? And your maximum is the largest number in the data set. So that's how that all works out. And you'll see it with a larger data set in the example that I give you. Okay, the next step would be to plot the median, the quartiles, the maximum value, and the minimum value below a number line. to create your box and whisker plot. So this is what it would look like. Remember, and that's why the 5-number summary is important, because you have this, remember, was your minimum. Okay, so that was your minimum number, and you put a dot there. Okay, then you're going to draw a line. That's why it's called a box and whisker. Okay, so these lines are the whiskers. Okay, and this was that Q1 value, remember? This was your median. Okay, this was your Q3 value, and that was your maximum right there. All right, so from Q1 to Q3 is a box. Okay, and then in that box is a line right at the median, and we put this below a number line so that we can see values. Yes, you still label it, but it should always be below a number line. Okay, that's how I prefer it. That's how it should be done. So hopefully you kind of see where these numbers fall into place here. All right, now we're going to work with an example which is closer to what you would see on a test. So these are the weekly payrolls for 2 imaginary restaurants, Fun Burger and McDiet. Okay, I didn't come up with their names. So you can see Fun Burger has 10 employees, McDiet has 11. Okay, and it gives their weekly salary. Okay, so we've got all this as a day. In this one, like I said, we have 10. Here we have 11. So you're going to kind of see how we work with these when we have an even number amount of data and an odd number. So we're going to find the 5-number summaries. Okay, for Fun Burger, we had a minimum of 112. Our lower quartile was 123. Our median was 132.5, and you're wondering, I didn't see a 0.5 in there, so how did you get that? Give me a second, I'll explain it. The upper quartile was 143, and the maximum was 162. So what I did was I took, and I'm going to go back just real quick. Okay, so you can see all this here. I rearranged all this so that it was in order from lowest to highest. Okay, for both of them too. So, like for Fun Burger, I had, 112, 121, 123, 132, 133, 141, 143, 155, and 162. Now, since I had an even number, and this should actually be, I missed one. Oh yeah, it should be 131 there, and 132. So if you notice, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I've got 10 sets of data. So I have a lower half, right, and an upper half, because I split it. So I have, actually, I screwed that up. So hold on. Should be 5 and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be my, lower half and my upper half. Lower, upper. But our median is not readily apparent. So what you do is you take the two numbers right next to each other that are in separate halves and find the mean of those two numbers. So 132 plus 133 divided by 2 gives me that number right there. Okay. Now in our lower half, we had a middle number of 123, which is how I got this one right here. And over here we had a middle number of 143, which is how I got this Q3 amount here. Now let's just say, for argument's sake, that all of this was, like, I didn't have 5 and 5, I had 4 and 4. Then for that upper quartile and lower quartile, you would do the same thing that we did over here to find the median. You would take the middle two numbers and divide them, and then and add them together and then divide by 2. We didn't have to do that in this case. Okay, and then you follow the same process with McDiet, although it had 11 values, so the median was the one right in the middle, which was 123. Okay, so hopefully you kind of understand how that one works. All right, so we're going to create parallel box plots because we have two sets of data, okay? And we need to label the graph clearly. So first things first, I had to make this number line here. It went from 100 to 400. Okay, and this was my box plot for Fun Burger right here. So I'll even write that in. Fun Burgers right there. Okay, and remember, 112 was a minimum. 123 was that Q1. 132.5, which is this line here, was the median. 143 was that Q3 value. And 162 was the maximum. So that's Fun Burger's Box and Whisker plot. McDiet, notice what looks kind of out of place here. Now, I didn't mess this up. We still have 102 for our minimum, 112 for our Q1, 123 for our median, 136 for our Q2 or 3, but then our maximum is all the way over here. Okay, so, and that's entirely possible. Your box and whisker plot is not always going to look symmetrical and nice and even, as you can see by this one. All right. So this would be an example of a question that would be on the test. So first you would have to make this 5-number summary, and then you would have to create the box and whisker plot. And then you might have this question: which restaurant pays the higher average salary? Well, to do that, add them all up. Fun Burger had 10 of them, so you take that, all of those, which gives you $13.53, and you're going to divide that by 10, so it had an average salary of $135.30. McDiet had 11, so you take those and add them all up, which gives you $15.69, divide by 11, and it gives you $142.64. So McDiet pays a higher average salary because this was the average salary, or the mean. Okay. Now, if you notice, McDiet did have an outlier. Okay, it had that 365 Sally's salary, and that was about $200 from the next closest salary. So that's why it would be considered an outlier. All the rest were fairly clumped, but this one was like way off from the rest. So we consider that an outlier. And a lot of times when you're trying to find like the mean, or you're trying to find data, you take the outliers out. Sometimes they're really low, sometimes they're really high. You remove the outlier and then you go ahead and find the mean without it. And if we did that, we would only have 10 sets of data, or 10 pieces of data. So we would take and have our new total, which would be 1204, divide that by 10, which would give you $120.40, which would now be lower than Fun Burgers. Okay. So here's some tips for success. 1, remember, you're really not doing any difficult math. It's mostly arranging numbers, so please, please don't overthink it. 2, know your vocabulary so that you know exactly what you're being asked. If you don't know your vocabulary, then there's no way that you're going to be able to get the answer that you should get, because you won't know what you're trying to find. So just some ideas, some tips for you guys. You're in the home stretch here. You only have 4 more videos, 4 more lessons after this. So let's finish strong, all right? Guys, have a good one.